Hey, what's going on, guys? Adam here with 80 Proof Goods. I want to take you through the process of how I make one of my notebook covers out of one of my absolute favorite leather hides I've ever had. This is English Tan Harvest. It's a full grain Chrome XL pull-up leather, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Now, this isn't really unique. A lot of crafters out there use this particular leather, but it's just something that you just can't beat. If you're looking for a pull-up leather, the Harvest lineup from Acadia is the way to go. And what you just saw me do there is cut by hand panels using a pre-cut acrylic sheet that is the exact pattern of my notebook cover, and that's going to tell me exactly how much I need to put into the Glowforge so I don't have too much excess waste. So once we have that cut from the Glowforge, it's all precision cut with the laser from our Glowforge Basic. I have them on the table here, and I wanted to show you that pull-up leather. So when it creases, it leaves those lighter streaks you see in the leather, and this particular English tan is kind of a darker brown, and then when it creases, it's like a lighter tan or lighter brown. From there, I head over to my Tandy Crafttool Pro burnishing machine just to get the laser char edges off so it's a clean, fresh, raw leather edge instead of that char. Then I'm going to break out my number 2 edge beveler from Palo Santo. I bevel the edges on what will become the pen loops and then the interior piece or interior pocket or panel of the notebook cover. So it's really 4 pieces. It's the interior, the exterior, and then the 2 pen loops, which I will fold into the leather, the outer and inner piece, so it'll get stitched into the inside. I personally like that method a little bit better than just stitching it to the outside. I think it minimizes some of the extra stitching that you'd see from the outside, so it looks a little bit more seamless. From here, I'm using Tokonole and an applicator, a needle applicator, on the edges for the inner panel and the pen loops. Canvas cloth, as always, is my method for hand burnishing. Using double-sided tape on things that will stick into the leather that you're going to stitch shut, but not necessarily something that's on an edge, is definitely the way to go instead of using glue. It's a lot quicker, it's a lot easier, it's a lot less mess. So I'm going to stitch these little pen loops to the edges. One's a little bit above the middle, one's a little bit below the middle, so when it closes, the pen can meet it right in the middle and they won't come in contact with each other. That'll make sense in a little bit. So I tape those down and then tape them shut, and then I'm going to glue the interior panel to that exterior panel, which will then get all stitched closed. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. It kind of sounds like rambling, but once it's all together, it makes sense. So here you go. I'm gluing that inner panel to the outer panel, and you can see the pen loops get stitched in between. Then I'm going to use a wing divider set at 1/8 of an inch from the edge to mark my stitching lines, and that's always really satisfying in a pull-up leather because it leaves a really cool light streak as the stitching line gets around. So then I'm going to head over to my Cobra Class 26 and stitch it shut. This time around I'm using light brown thread. This is a design your own option from a customer order. They chose to use the English Tan Harvest leather and they chose light brown stitching to go with it, which is a common theme on my website. You can choose any stitching color. I think I have 14 or 15 stitching options to pair with whatever leather, so you can make it pop or you can give it a more monotone look like this one here. So here I'm just preparing it for the Tokonole and needle applicator after I sand off all of the edges, all of the rest of the laser char. That's also going to help get the edges nice and flush. So once everything glued together, you want to head it over to either sandpaper by hand or a burnishing tool like the one I've been using just to get it nice and flush, preparing it for whatever edge finisher you're applying. In my case, it's always Tokonole and it's always the canvas cloth. Now I hit the 4 corners, of course, where the pen loops are, and then of course the top and bottom sides, the longer sides, and sometimes that Tokonole just applies so smoothly, just like that, and it's going to finish it nice and glassy. Now, I really like the way that the Harvest lineup finishes, the pull-up leather. It's a little bit different than some of the Minerva leathers that I work with. This kind of gives it a glassy edge, but you still see a lot of the leather fibers, which I personally like. So the Harvest or pull-up leather lineups here have more of a natural looking finish even after the Tokonole's applied. I don't know how to explain that further, but it's a nice touch. From here, I add a large moleskin notebook. It's 5 by 8.5 or 5 by 8.25, and then a fine tip pen, lock it shut, and we're good to go. One question I always like to ask before we get going over on my TikTok, if you're familiar with that, is what color stitching would you have gone with this particular leather? Because there's so many options to go with. Personally, I like auburn. It's a little bit shinier than the light brown you see in this particular notebook cover. Auburn gives it, I think, just a little bit of a sheen, a little bit of a pop, but the light brown here is definitely giving a more monotone look. So drop a comment, let me know what you think in terms of stitching colors, what you would have gone with. At the end of the day, this one's ready to head out to its customer in Ireland. So I'll see you in the next one.